All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into some really provocative ideas about food and health, all from one pretty fascinating source. Let's get right into it. Okay, so just think about this for a second. What if the most common foods you eat, the stuff on your plate every day, what if they were secretly harming you? Not just, bad for you in large amounts, but actually toxic. That's a pretty radical idea, right? And it's really the core of what we're talking about today. So, where are we getting these ideas from? Well, we're going to be unpacking the arguments from a Vietnamese text called Dietary Mistakes, Toxins, and Diseases. Now, just to be clear, our goal here isn't to give you diet advice. It's to explore the really unique and, let's be honest, pretty challenging perspective that this specific source puts forward.
All right, so let's jump into the first major theme. The text really hones in on three food groups that it calls the main culprits behind a lot of modern health problems: meat, sugar, and dairy.
So, the main argument this text makes against meat, it all comes down to time. It claims that, plant-based foods, they pass through your system in maybe a day and a half. But meat, it can take up to 5 days. And according to this source, that huge delay is a big problem. It suggests that the meat basically putrefies, it rots inside your gut, releasing all these toxins that poison your body from the inside out.
And it doesn't stop there. The text also claims that industrially farmed meat is just loaded with toxins, from pesticides and pollution. It even says that the stress hormones from when the animal is slaughtered stay in the meat, and that can mess with our own minds. So you've got this combined toxic load that supposedly just hammers our liver and kidneys, speeding up aging and setting the stage for chronic diseases.
Wow. I mean, if you thought the take on meat was intense, listen to this. The source calls sugar, and I'm quoting here, a unique murderer in human history, worse than opium and radiation. I mean, that language, it really tells you just how extreme and convicted these claims are. And according to the source, the problem with sugar goes way beyond just, empty calories. It says sugar gives you this fake high, this burst of energy, but then you crash hard because it's actually stripping your body of essential vitamins. And it links this not just to physical issues, but to your mental state too. Things like confusion, aggression, and even claims a link to really serious conditions like schizophrenia. Okay, so what about dairy? The text has a really interesting take here. It argues that dairy just isn't meant for humans. And it claims that while people who consume a lot of it might look great on the outside, have that glossy, healthy appearance, inside their organs are getting weak and diseased. It's supposedly filling them with phlegm and leading to everything from the common cold to hardened arteries. So that covers the what. But let's move on. The source warns about a whole other category of dangers, and these are way less obvious. They're the kind of threats lurking in how we actually prepare and combine our food.
Okay, so to really get this next point, we need to understand a central idea from the text. It's a concept called thin, which you could roughly translate as a yin state. Now, this isn't just about feeling a little chilly. The text describes it as this deep internal imbalance that makes your whole body weak, slow, and basically a perfect breeding ground for all sorts of chronic illnesses. So, what causes it?
Well, here's the number one cause, according to this source. The text is incredibly blunt about it, saying cold food and drinks are true poison to people in modern society. It basically frames our habit of drinking iced water or eating foods straight from the fridge as a modern poison, blaming it for everything from chronic fatigue and allergies to hair loss and even memory problems. Then there's this other hidden threat: toxic food combinations. The text lists some really specific pairings it says are dangerous, and some of them are just, surprising. Like chicken with a certain type of mint causing rashes. But others are pretty alarming. It claims that things like soybeans with honey or duck eggs with garlic could actually be fatal. All right, so we've talked about what foods to avoid, but the text argues there's another dietary mistake that's just as important, and that's the sin of excess. It's not just about what you eat, but how much. And the logic, according to the source, is pretty straightforward. When you eat too much, you just totally overwhelm your digestive system. The text claims the food that doesn't get digested just sits there and, it ferments. It rots inside you, creating toxins. And this internal pollution is supposedly the direct cause of feeling tired, sluggish, and having that mental fog or unclear thinking. To really hammer this point home, the text looks to traditional wisdom. It brings up this old Russian proverb: when the belt gets longer, life gets shorter. It's such a simple but powerful way to picture the dangers of eating too much. And right after that, it hits you with the Western version: we dig our graves with our teeth. By using both of these, the source is basically saying, look, This isn't some fringe idea. This is a universal truth that people have understood all over the world for ages.
Okay, let's get to our final point. And honestly, this might be the most counterintuitive claim in the entire text. You know that super common piece of health advice, drink lots of water? Well, what if that's actually wrong?
To make its case, the source tells this really dramatic story. There's a heart patient, right? And their doctor tells them to drink 2 liters of water every single day. The patient does it, thinking it's healthy advice. But instead of getting better, their condition gets critical. They end up unconscious with a racing heart. So why would this happen? The reason the text gives is that forcing all that extra water on your body just overworks the heart and the kidneys. It pushes the body back into that same weak, imbalanced yin state we talked about before. And here's the paradox. It claims this flood of liquid can actually make it harder for your body to get rid of waste, which leads to swelling, fatigue, and a really fast decline in your overall energy. Okay, so let's tie this all together. The whole philosophy of this text really boils down to these 4 main ideas. First, modern staples like meat, sugar, and dairy are treated as poisons. Second, there are hidden dangers in the temperature of our food and how we combine it. Third, that eating or drinking too much, any kind of excess, is a root cause of sickness. And finally, that the ultimate goal of all these rules is to keep your body from falling into that weak, imbalanced yin state. Look, this text presents a view on nutrition that is just completely different from what most of us hear every day. It's a really stark, really challenging perspective. And, whether you agree with any of it or not, it does make you stop and ask a pretty powerful question. What are the beliefs, the ones I see and the ones I don't, that are really shaping what I put on my plate?